For the last 50 plus years, the occult priests have been casting spells through the television set, through the motion pictures, through entertainment. They've been casting spells through the music. All right, moving on to my stack of stuff. I've got an article by Elias Watchman, The Wand of Harlot Babylon, How Hollywood Bewitched America. Now, as I was reading through this article and preparing to make this video, I found myself feeling saddened, and I had to search in my heart what was upsetting me about this particular article. And I think that if you've ever been hurt by somebody, because maybe you loved somebody, you cared about somebody, and they ended up not being who you thought they were. They ended up betraying you, hurting you, doing something to you that you would never consider doing to them. If you've ever had a relationship of any kind where that happened, where you felt wounded, hurt, betrayed because you gave yourself to somebody in friendship and instead you were deceived, abused, abandoned. It turned out that all along you were being used. If you've ever experienced that, that's what you're about to find out through this article that Hollywood has done to America. A lot of us grew up watching TV and really enjoying a lot of the stuff that we watched, not knowing any better. I know that my parents allowed me to sit and watch shows on television, and they didn't do a whole lot of curating. They probably should have. And so you grow fond of all of the ideas and realities that TV is putting into your mind and heart. And then you wake up one day and you have some realizations, and this article is going to unveil for some people just how intentional Hollywood has been in shaping how you think and lying to you and really bewitching America. This is a very powerful article. How did the light become darkness? How can a nation once consecrated to the Most High now dance in the shadow of fallen stars? How did a land forged in covenant with truth, liberty, and righteousness become a stage for deception, surveillance, and ritual perversion? America has not merely wandered, it has been bewitched. And at the center of this sorcery is an altar hidden in plain sight, Hollywood. Now, some of you are going to have to brace yourself for this because the information that we're going to talk about here can be devastating. Like I said, when you find out that somebody just isn't who they said that they were and that they were intentionally deceiving you, that can be very painful and scary. It can make you feel stupid. It can make you feel all sorts of ways that aren't good. And what we're about to find out about Hollywood, I know a lot of us have favorite actors and favorite old TV shows and favorite commercials. And so what you're going to hear about Hollywood is very disturbing, and it's something that you probably didn't know. Most people don't know this. And so I just want to say brace yourself, and here we go. The Wand of the Witch. What is Hollywood? The name Hollywood is no accident. The wood of the holly tree was used by ancient druids to craft wands for spell casting. Hollywood is not just a place of entertainment. It is the wand through which the occult priesthood casts spells over the masses. Its power is not cinematic, it's liturgical. Okay, let's think about this for a second. The name Hollywood is no accident, but it is actually the name of wands that were used for spell casting. So Hollywood's not just a place of entertainment, it's literally the wand through which the occult priesthood casts spells over the masses. Now, I don't know about you, but I was raised up assuming that the purpose of the television was for entertainment purposes. But if you just do a little bit of studying, the reason why they refer to television programming is because television was a technology that they knew could be used to program people. So the rollout of the television, if you go back and look at our past video, maybe from last Friday, but we cover this in a lot of our videos, that whatever technology the public is consuming right now, they've probably had for anywhere from 30 to 70 years. And so a lot of times when products like Google or Facebook or ChatGPT, or in this case, television, is rolled out, it's rolled out under false pretense. They're telling you it's for one purpose, but there's a totally hidden agenda. It's like the magician who says, look over here, while he's doing something with this hand. And so the rollout of television programming was intentional. And for them to name Hollywood, which has become, known for the epicenter of motion pictures, to name it Hollywood after a wand that's known for casting spells, this is the type of thing that the cabal believes that if they put it out there like that right in front of your face and you don't realize it, then you get what you deserve, and they won't receive any sort of karmic backlash for the negative things that they do to you. So they call it Hollywood, a wand that's used for spell casting. And it becomes the wand through which the occult priesthood casts spells. So you wake up one day in America and you go, America looks nothing like what it used to look like when I was young. Well, for the last 50 plus years, the occult priests have been casting spells through the television set, through the motion pictures, through entertainment. They've been casting spells through the music. And those spells, those realities that they are imparting to young people, old people, the portrayal of what life is supposed to be, people are ingesting it. They say you become what you eat. And so we have, as a nation, we have eaten up all of the Hollywood spells that have been cast. And now we're waking up and we're going, well, how did we get here? Well, we've been programmed to be here. We've been systematically programmed to get to where we're at right now. And this is why a guy like Trump is so powerful, because he's so out of the ordinary that he breaks programming. Same with Alex Jones. They break programming. There are certain types of people that are really good at breaking the program, shocking people out of the systematic, unconscious spellbound that they're in, that they're bound by, a spell that they're bound by. Waking people up out of sleep. And that's what's happening right now, is America is being awoken out of her sleep. We've been under spells for many, many, many years now, and it's been intentional. And so even some of our favorite actors, we're going to find out that some of our favorite actors have been doing things that are unconscionable, that we would never even imagine. And they've been doing it on purpose. They've been doing it for long periods of time. And it's going to be heartbreaking. A lot of this stuff is going to be coming out publicly. It's already starting to, but it's going to increase over the next couple of years. And a lot of people are going to be wounded and hurt. People who you loved, things that you thought were one way weren't the whole time. It was deception. But it was right in front of our faces, that word Hollywood. No accident. The Hollywood was wands used for spell casting. So it's no accident that we've wound up in gender confusion, sexual perversion, communism taking over, the insanity I talked about in a video, young people waking up and they want to have cat litters placed on school campuses because they identify as cats. The insanity that we've seen in the news over the last, really since Trump started running, it's just been an acceleration of the insanity ever since back in 2015. But hitting peaks in 2020 with lockdowns, and now we're finding out that the lockdowns were pre-programmed through Netflix and movies like Plandemic or Pandemic, that was, by the way, funded by Bill Gates, who also was invested in the cure or the shots that are supposed to help with what people were allegedly suffering through the pandemic. And so we're waking up in this craziness. How did we get here? Well, Hollywood has been casting spells. This is not the only thing that's been happening, but this is a big branch of that octopus cabal. Hollywood casting spells over America. This is why we should not sacrifice our children to the convenience of the television set. We need to be curators. We need to be intentional about what we allow to be put into the minds of our children. Stars are not symbols of celebrity. They're symbols of the fallen hosts. From Lucifer to the third of heaven swept down in rebellion, the obsession with stars is not cultural, it is spiritual idolatry. Hollywood elevates these stars as objects of worship, and through screens, scripts, and songs, it initiates millions into unconscious participation in sorcery, inversion, and rebellion. Okay, we need to break this down one little portion at a time. Let me start with this part right here where it says, stars are not symbols of celebrity. They are symbols of the fallen host. So this is what I was talking about earlier, that we're being deceived. Did you ever think about what does it mean that somebody is a star? You know, stars are bright. Stars are way up in the sky. But did you know that these Hollywood stars are talking about fallen angels? Who was the main fallen angel? Lucifer. So it says stars are not symbols of celebrity. They are symbols of the fallen hosts. So when we are starstruck, when people get their star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, it's an ode to these fallen angels, to Lucifer. And so there's some Bible references I found here. The book of Revelation 12, 3 and 4. So this is what I mean. Hollywood was deceiving. You think that you're watching television for entertainment, but really you're being programmed. You think the stars are these bright shining things in the sky, but they're really fallen angels. It's a liturgical, not a cinematic thing that they're doing. A lot of stuff that's happening in movies and on TV shows and in Super Bowl halftimes and commercials are these rituals that they're doing right in front of your face. And as your eyes get open to them, it becomes super obvious, and you'll be watching something and you'll be seeing these demonic rituals taking place right in front of you. I've been at Super Bowl parties are an easy one because most people have seen bizarre stuff at halftime shows, and so you can relate. But I've been places where there's young people watching TV and there's these rituals being done right in front of them, and everyone's just eating food and having a party and ingesting this stuff as though it's just entertainment. But all along it has been programming, it has been spells being cast, it's been intentional deception. So check this out, Book of Revelation chapter 12. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. The third part of the stars is commonly interpreted as a third of the angels that fell with Satan. This links stars with fallen angels. Isaiah 14, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? Lucifer is described as a bright celestial being often associated with the morning star, and this fall is linked to pride and rebellion, paralleling how fallen angels are cast from heaven. I like this one from Jude. Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. It's talking about rebellious angels. This verse, wandering stars, rebellious angels. So you think that you're watching TV for entertainment, but you're being programmed. And now you have these fallen angels that people are fawning over. Think about it. How often do you hear a child say that when they grow up, they want to be a movie star? I'm going to be a big star one day. I remember playing baseball growing up, and if you did really good, you'd be an all-star. And so I had no idea that that concept of the stars the whole time was referring to demonic angels. This is the nature of deception. It's very deceitful. Hollywood elevates these stars as objects of worship, and through screen scripts and songs, Hollywood initiates millions into unconscious participation in sorcery, inversion, and rebellion. You know, when people are being entertained by what's coming through the television set, or now the computers, we are having intimacy with these ideas. And so everything that's coming through the television set becomes what I would refer to as a familiar spirit. There's feelings you have when you're watching this stuff, and those feelings become familiar to you. And over time, it's like anything else. I had a wounded knee. I hurt my knee playing college football. I blew out my knee. And it never healed right. I had all these surgeries on it, 3 surgeries on it, and it just wouldn't heal right. It eventually got healed. But I got so used to the pain because over time, I didn't even know that it was there. And it's the same thing with these TV shows, is that we are ingesting so many different realities and ideologies and perversions, and they just become normalized in people's hearts. And people wake up one day and it's part of the Rolodex of thoughts. People start thinking and acting in the ways of what they're ingesting from the television set. And to give you an idea of just how powerful the programming is, just think, can any of you remember a commercial jingle from when you were growing up? I mean, I've got songs and commercials memorized, lines from movies and TV shows memorized, shows I haven't seen in 20 plus years. There's a commercial that I remember growing up when I was a little kid, and to this day, I can hear it reciting in my mind. At BASF, we don't make a lot of the products you buy. We make a lot of the products you buy better. And I know most of you can relate to that. And so the programming, it's intense. And this is why I've said before, I do believe that for all of us, when we stand before the judgment seat of God, his mercy toward us is going to be greater than we understand, because he knows the whole picture. He knows that we were born into this Truman world. He understands that we've been attacked by demonic influences that have been trying to program us our whole life. And we don't even understand all the ways that programming is impacting us. If you put rose-colored lenses on your eyes, you see rose. If you put green-colored lenses, you see green. And so the lens through which we perceive really impacts our reality. And that programming is putting a lens in our hearts. I had an amazing dream one time many years ago. And in this dream, I was in my living room with, I think it was 4 or 5 of my really closest friends at that time. And in this dream, all of a sudden, my spirit jumped out of my body, and it just like flew into the person's body next to me, and it went bam, 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 around in order into each of the person's bodies, and then back into my body. And when I'd go into another person's body, I could suddenly see through their eyes. And I could see what everyone looked like to them through their eyes. And each body that I went into, when I looked through their eyes, everyone looked completely different. I mean, not like a little bit different, like totally different. Like when I jumped into the guy's body right next to me, the other people in the room might as well have been complete strangers to me. That's how different they looked. And then I went to the next person, and through their eyes, everyone looked completely different. And it happened like bam, 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 real quick, and I was back in my own body in this dream. And I realized from that we never even really understand how people are perceiving things, because our hearts really shape how we're taking in information. The same way light is refracted by glass or water or heat. And so, you know, you can see mirages in the desert. It's the same thing with these realities, our heart lens. I've got so much programming in me from the time I was a child, when I had no say over what I was doing, that programming is still at some level impacting me. And so, you know, these witches, these satanic demons, ultimately Satan, through Hollywood, has really been programming people. And so I do believe that when we stand before the Lord, his mercy will be greater than we understand, because we don't even understand all the ways that we act, because we've been so programmed. Now, one particular programming that I have noticed is super prevalent is this one right here, where it says they've initiated millions into unconscious participation in sorcery, inversion, and rebellion. But I want to focus on sorcery. How huge has Harry Potter been? How many folks out there have watched all of the Harry Potter movies with their children? I know tons of Christians, tons of people in general, but tons of even Christians who willingly ingest movies that are all about sorcery with their children. And in their minds, it's just entertainment. But what people don't understand is that, especially little kids, when they're watching movies, they're identifying with the characters as though they are those characters in the movie. In their hearts, as they're watching movies, they're literally casting spells with those characters. They get emotionally tied in, and it creates a bond with the reality of those characters. That's why so many kids grow up wanting to be an actor or wanting to be a professional athlete, because they're watching sports and they want to be that athlete, because as they're watching something, they're identifying with what they're watching. And so they're creating a bond with it. And so Hollywood has, in the name of quote unquote entertainment, has initiated so many millions of children and adults into sorcery. Oh, it's no big deal. It's just entertainment, just a little sorcery. Things that in the scripture, the Israelites were put to death over. You think you were just allowed to practice sorcery or, create movies to entertain people? I know they didn't have movies back then in Israel's days, but they had, I'm sure, some forms of coming together. Can you imagine if they said, hey, we want to pretend like we're all sorcerers and casting spells and using wands of false gods, and we'll do it in front of the 5-year-olds and the 8-year-olds and the 10-year-olds of Israel? Do you think the Lord Yahweh would have put up with that? No way. And so you've got people who are just inviting demonic hordes into the minds and hearts of their children. And it breaks my heart. It hurts me to say that. It's devastating. It's been devastating to the nation. We've got kids growing up who'd rather be a wizard or a sorcerer than to live righteously and holy with Jesus as their savior. And for a lot of them, it's not their fault. It was their parents that let it in. And then their parents were raised by their parents. It's been a generational handing down because of this spell of Hollywood that's been cast on our nation. And it's not just sorcery, it's inversion and rebellion as well. I'll hit on rebellion right now. Think about how cartoons teach children how to be rebellious against their parents. You take Disney movies. How many Disney movies contain within them children who are rebelling against their parents? And back to the sorcery thing, you think it's a coincidence that there's so much magic inside of cartoons and Disney, and there's so much sorcery inside of children's cartoons? How come Disney didn't accidentally make a bunch of cartoons about Jesus and Mary and Joseph and righteous living and saints and love and joy? Why are there so many movies about magic and rebellion against parents and princesses falling in love? Why are we talking to 5-year-olds about falling in love? Are 5-year-olds ready to? They're not interested in falling in love. So we're literally baptizing our children in this perversion as a nation. It's heartbreaking. It makes me want to cry. It's actually difficult to talk about it. I've been pastoring in some form or fashion for the last 20 plus years, and the stuff that I've seen inside homes, how homes are wrecked by poor decision making, by just allowing television and their children to just sit and ingest all of these realities into their mind, and then they wonder why their kids are growing up and are rebellious. And it's devastating. And when children are a mess, it makes the marriage harder, and so divorce rates are skyrocketing. When we get to heaven one day, we'll be able to ask Yahweh, hey, how many divorces were a direct result of children watching television, too much television? I'd like to know the numbers on that. And so, Hollywood's doing a great job with their occult priesthood of casting spells and causing children to be rebellious, to want to be wizards and witches and practice witchcraft. And then these inversions of reality where all of a sudden people are saying things like I mentioned earlier I identify as a cat, therefore we should have cat litters on the school campus so I don't have to use the regular bathrooms. The inversions of reality, this is what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. I know a lot of people tend to focus on the sexual perversion that happened in Sodom and Gomorrah, but if you read the book of Jasher, it lets you know that it wasn't just about sexual perversion that God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, but it was actually because all of reality had been inverted to where truth was, confusion was the normal. So for instance, it tells a story in the book of Jasher about a guy taking a rock and he hits another guy over the head with a rock and makes the guy bleed, and then says, I'm going to sue you because I made you bleed and you owe me money for me making you bleed. And so their realities have been completely inverted. And that's one of the reasons why God rained down the fire that he did on Sodom and Gomorrah. It wasn't just about perversion, it was about inversion of realities. And so you have this sorcery coming through Hollywood, or these spells being cast, and you have sorcery, inversion, rebellion, and that's just a few. What else? Hollywood is steeping the nation with these demonic realities, and we're seeing the fruit of it. You're wondering, why are we waking up with America being the way it is? Well, a lot of it has to do with the nation has been steeped by these Hollywood, by these wands, by these spell-casting, demonic Hollywood elites. All right, Hollywood and the deep state, a dark alliance. It turns out Hollywood, your whole life, has been partnering with the deep state, CIA, FBI, probably DARPA, all the different intelligence agencies. It says Hollywood's reach and influence are not organic, they are engineered. The entertainment industry has long operated as a psychological operation arm of the deep state. Since Project Mockingbird, and you should stop right now, hit pause, and go to YouTube, look up Mockingbird, Project Mockingbird, and look up the church hearings if you're not familiar with that. The church hearings. This is where the government had to admit that they had placed CIA agents inside all the news agencies. And this was many, many, many years ago, Project Mockingbird. And it's much worse today. I've stated in some earlier videos, now if you look at the news agency, CNN, you've got Clapper, Brennan, Anderson Cooper. These are all ex-CIA people that are working there. The news stations are filled with the intelligence agency. It's no longer news. The same way television was rolled out as entertainment, but it was really programming. News is really propaganda. That's what it is. All right. Mockingbird, look that up, and beyond. The CIA has used media and films as vehicles for mass influence and ideological subversion. In fact, declassified records confirm that agencies like CIA, DOD, and FBI have helped shape over 800 movies and TV shows to subtly direct cultural values, normalize surveillance, and cast the state as savior. So it's saying here that Hollywood's a front line of narrative warfare. A front line of narrative warfare. We are in an information war, a spiritual war and an information war. Hollywood packages propaganda in spectacle, channels national trauma through scripted catharsis, and performs societal initiations through mass ritual.
The majority of people arrested in last